Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our final DRC meeting for the City of Germantown, Tuesday, November 27, 2018. Our first item of business is to call to order. Please call roll.
Mr. Landwehr?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Mr. Sherman?
Here.
Mr. Gibson?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Alderman Owens?
Here.
Chairman Bruns?
I am here. We do have a quorum, which will put us on to the approval of the minutes from the October 23rd meeting. Do I have a motion?
I would like to approve the minutes of the October 23rd meeting. Second.
Very good. Please call roll.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Alderman Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Show me recused, please.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Landwehr?
Yes.
Chairman Bruns?
Yes. The minutes are approved. And that will bring us to the consent agenda. We have had a couple of changes on the consent agenda. Item 4A, the Kazan Realty approval of the sign package is on the consent agenda. 4B also remains on the consent agenda, and that is the Stacks Pancake House wall sign approval. 4C, Chapel Cove subdivision for the revised landscape plan. Those three items remain. We have added 5, which now becomes 4D, 5 below, for the approval of their wall sign. 4E, item number 6, pardon me, becomes 4E. Germantown Village Square, the approval of the compactor enclosure. And item number 8 becomes 4F, which is the 2289 West Street and 7528 Second Street approval of the building modifications. Do I hear a motion on the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
Very good. Are there any commissioners or members in the audience that would like to remove any of these items from the consent agenda? Seeing and hearing none, I'd like to remind the commissioners that by voting on the consent agenda, you are agreeing to each of the cases listed and those cases added tonight. You have read and reviewed each of the applications in subcommittee and in executive session with staff and the applicant and have determined no further discussion or presentation of each case is necessary. Please call and vote.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Landwehr?
Yes.
Alderman Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Chairman Bruns?
Yes, those 6 items are approved, and feel free to enjoy the remainder of your evening. Well, we will enjoy our final discussion of item number 7 this evening. Staff, BurgerFi, staff presentation, please.
Restaurant, which is located at 7708 Poplar. Can you hear me now? Yes, Poplar Avenue. The request is for approval of a storefront site modification. The application, or the tenant for this application, is actually located in the Germantown Village Square Shopping Center. It is located here in this area where the previous Bank of Bartlett was located. The request before you is for modification of several items, and I will quickly go through the items that the applicant is asking for changes. They are requesting approval of an outdoor patio. They are not changing the front facade of the building where the patio is located or the storefront entrance. They are adding seating to that area. additional bench seating and table seating with umbrellas. That information was part of your packet to show the materials and things that they are proposing for that. They are also taking out 2 planters that would be located here in this area to make way for the patio seating that they are proposing. The rest of the planters on this site will remain as is. They are asking also to modify a dumpster enclosure, which is located here behind the building, to add a new dumpster that will accommodate all of the businesses that are located within this outbuilding area. And lastly, they are asking to add a grease trap for the restaurant, which would be here in this area, actually the drive area, not within the parking spaces, as staff has asked that they relocate that area. There is one issue surrounding this application that we have reiterated through several of the applications, which deals with the parking requirements for the shopping center as a whole. In the research and the information that staff has reviewed, we have identified several different instances with different parking counts, with different information about the building square footage for this site. Parking is based on the gross square footage for the shopping center, not the net, or not just the usable area or the leasable area. It is based on the gross. This site has received 2 variances, BZA variances on parking in the past. At this point, we are not sure exactly what the parking count for the site is, and we are not sure exactly what the square footage of the space on this site. We are asking the applicant to submit to us a as-built revised site plan so that we do have that information on file, and we will review that to determine if additional variances may be needed for this site. We are not sure exactly if the site is non-compliance, but with that information we will be able to determine that. Lastly, as part of the review of this site, we did ask the applicant to submit to us a trip generation traffic study, just looking at how the change from this bank use to a restaurant use would impact this site as a whole and traffic on Poplar in that area. They did submit that, and there was a response from the city engineer and the city consultant concerning that study, and indicated that maybe the study needed to be updated and revised based on additional information concerning what the bank numbers really were as far as trip generations and versus what the use of a restaurant would do. These are just pictures of the type of outdoor furniture that would be used for this site. And with those comments, we are recommending that the restaurant itself be approved, but we are asking that the board require that the as-built revised site plan be submitted for this site prior to that approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Pounder. Any questions for staff? Thank you. Yes, sir. Would the applicant please come forward, state your name and address for the record?
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Evan Rosenblatt with Peb Enterprises. We're located at 7900 Glades Road, Suite 600 in Boca Raton, Florida, and we are the owners for the shopping center, Germantown Village Square. Again, I appreciate you all hearing out, and I do understand staff's concerns, and it is not that we have ignored the request. We've talked to them on several different occasions on what the parking realities are out here, and have already also told them that we would get them back to the numbers that they were. So as I met with you guys a couple of weeks ago and told you what latest survey we had and showed what the parking counts were. We too had our own count done. We agree within a spot or two of the numbers that staff reported in here. But, and I have my little diagram here of exactly what happened. If you may or may not be aware, we paved along the backside all the service areas and the entire parking lot along the north side of the shopping center. Gave clear, specific instructions to the paving company and their striper. Gave actually an attachment that we had agreed with Cameron and Sheila on the last site plan for the site and made that part of their contract. They screwed up. So I intended to have them go out and fix their error. However, I was then informed that in order for them to do so, to seal coat, which of course seal coating now and painting over brand new paved, it's going to look like crap. But excuse my terminology, but it needs to be corrected, and he's agreed to do it. The problem is that you need to have it above 60 degrees to do that. So I wasn't able to get that done before the meeting, which meant I wasn't able to submit another document giving an actual count, because I don't want to keep providing incorrect documents to the city. But even at the counts that staff had put in the report, if it's 917, on the chart here of the ones, he missed 4 in this column, 4 over here, 2 over here, 2 over here, and 2 over here, which is a total of 14, 8 and 6, gets you the 931, which is also what they had as the approved number in the staff report. So I do apologize that I couldn't have that document, prepared. We are still committed to providing that document, going through whatever process necessary we need to do to, agree on a correct parking count for this shopping center. I was out there again today. We're getting into holiday season, people are shopping, people are working at the same time. Again, even in those areas that were repaved, not one parking spot was being utilized. I don't have a fear that the parking counts are more than they need to be. I do understand we got to get it through the right channels and get it approved. To the point, Sheila's asked for holding off on this approval. I mentioned last time, in order to meet the dates on the lease for BurgerFi, I need to have a building permit for January. So you guys aren't meeting this next month, which means I wouldn't get approval until end of January. So I'm not sure how that works for me. I need to be able to submit the building permit. But again, and all of this will get finalized with the survey and whatever, to Sheila's point about the gross square footage. I agree that's the way the code is written. If you take the gross square footage of the building, it includes our parking garage. So, that is just counterproductive in itself. You're counting square footage of a building for parking, which is a parking lot. So, obviously all that will be presented and submitted to whichever board or has to go through that process. And in reality, if I can make the numbers work without having to go stripe over a brand new parking lot and redo the 8 spots, I'd still get the other 6 in that are just missed. Obviously, it'd be a shame to do that and just start the maintenance on that right away. But again, I'm going to stop talking because I think I've said it. But
Certainly, some of that's enlightening as far as the asphalt company or the seal coat company doing what they did. That's news. Well, perhaps irrelevant to where we are now. Is the discrepancy there in what you wanted and what you got, 14 spots? Is that what you were saying? I think I picked up.
Correct.
Okay.
It matched the numbers that Sheila had or staff had put into the report. They said they counted 917, that the variance was up for 931. If we put the 14 in, you're at 931 again.
And while we're on parking, we'll talk about building in a second, but we'll go ahead and exhaust this as we did before a couple weeks ago. And I think that staff is, all staff would like, and this is not through our body, it is through the Planning Commission or BZA, and I think everyone's preferring the BZA to review your parking situation, not us, but what they would like is what exists, exactly what exists. And while there may be a discrepancy of gross building square footage and a parking garage is included in that, then give that detail perhaps in your report, so then that body can make the proper decision on what variance is needed, if any, and that's not a good word to use, but a warrant but the more information you can give to the proper body, then I think it's gonna go a lot easier for everybody. Because I know that we don't want to continue to approve, even if we approve this improvement tonight, on the stipulation that staff doesn't have what they want, or planning commission, or the BZA, and we continue to move forward, well, then the approvals are gonna stop because we can't continue this.
I understand.
So before seal coating, or if that's a concern, which we're just learning about, like I said, I would stop and determine exactly what you have, fill out the application to the proper body, which is BZA, as we have determined, and then provide them with the information they need. I think December 12th is the application deadline for the BZA. That won't conflict with your tenant, your leases, your building permits, but it will give everyone satisfaction with what we're looking for. Does staff or anyone else have anything to add on the parking bit?
And so, just so I understand, and you're saying that I thought I heard that the parking spaces, once we go out there and properly stripe them, that we will meet, we're still short?
I think well, we can claim we're short, but everyone doesn't agree on A. And so we're discussing A, B, and C, and D, but there's no basis point.
I got you. Okay, so there is a possibility that we may not even have to go to the BZA. Am I hearing that correctly? It's just, getting that documentation, and that's how we make our determination. And so
That's right.
Agreed, but I mean, I think, yeah, I guess as the building owner and then having to maintain, if we were to do the seal coating on a brand new parking lot, I mean, it may just be better for us to do. I mean, we'll see where the numbers are and make that determination before December 12th. But, if, I have a feeling if we don't do those 8 spots, then we're short what the current approval is. Is it the right thing to do, or is it the reality of what the parking needs are out there? I can't, that's, each person's opinion for it.
well, maybe you alluded to, maybe a study showing that these aren't being utilized even in the busiest of times would help your variance request and move forward. But, so they file for December, or November variance, or we know it
December
passed that,
12th.
December 12th,
Yep.
and so then that would be heard January. And we can make this contingent upon that, is that what I'm hearing too, or no? And so does that January BZA date meet your deadline for lease?
I wouldn't be able to submit for a permit until then? Right.
And the only thing Shelby County needs from us is just kind of stamped elevations, right? They're not looking at construction plans.
Correct.
Yeah.
I need to get
Once
those building
Once you
drawings
file
in.
the application, then we will work with you to try to keep you moving. We just need to get the information in.
So, yeah, so if I'm, okay,
Once we get it in, we can move it forward so that it goes through the correct process.
okay,
And try at the same time to work with you to keep you on your deadline. But until we get the documentation and the information in, we don't have anything to work with you on.
got it.
Yeah, I'm sort of wrestling here. I want you to get in there with your new tenant. Don't want to continue to go down this road of continually adding approvals. I know we do have some additional approvals to consider, signage and possibly the outdoor, not the outdoor, the drive-through at some future date.
Right.
The January BZA is going to be, it's either the 7th or the 8th right now. It's because we may have to move the planning commission meeting.
Okay.
But it will be early January for that meeting.
And I would think that you guys could even contact or be in touch with the building department, Shelby County, and let them know that the only thing that we're waiting on here is an approval, and you go ahead and review that, and then once that approval comes, you could fax over or email the letter.
That's correct,
over.
that's what I,
Right, I mean,
that's what I mean by us working with him.
if there could be a hold on Shelby County side that they don't release my permit or, until we're far enough along, I mean, I gotta look, I mean, I think it's April 1, so January, February, March to do what I need to do is really what I need there, so even losing the week could be hard, but, again, my drawings aren't in right now, so, and obviously Shelby County takes 3 weeks or so to do their review, so, I don't know if the 7th or 8th, if it gets moved, is gonna affect it.
Is it true, our main concern is to get this resolved? So I think if applications are filed and things, it's stated that staff will work with you through the process in order to respect your deadlines in the project that we're discussing tonight. They just want to see the process started, and it hasn't been.
Yeah.
I think that's the main goal.
Yeah, and it's not that it hasn't been. It hasn't.
Well, you're correct. You're correct. Just not resolved, but at least the proper channels to get it resolved.
Again, once we get the documentation, we may find that no variance is needed. We don't
Yes.
know that yet.
Yes. It may no need to seal code or any of that. So I think that's what it is. It's just documentation. And then it may be a non-issue.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many square feet of building you have out there?
Well, I mean, to Sheila's point, if you go by which record, I mean, I've got, a survey here that says one thing. You've got the property records that I think she had quoted at one time says 266,000. Then there's the leasable, which is not the way
Right.
it is written, but in reality, it's not a shopping center. It's a mixed-use center. It's got office. It's got hallways and interior space that's
Right.
not utilized that are part of those counts.
Yeah, right.
So, that's all something that would have to be, negotiated or for lack of better, explained during the BZA if we go through that side, which is how it had been looked at in the past. The 2008 variance was specifically, or even both of them, 2008 was to add 1,000 square feet, I believe, and reduce the parking because of that, adding 1,000 square feet, which actually never got built. It looked like, from what I read, it looked like Holiday Ham, which is currently a tenant, was leaving, and they had another tenant in play that would only come if they could add 1,000 square feet in the back. So that never got added. The one before that was actually reducing it 6,000 square feet, because there's a mezzanine level up above the where the Pier 1 building is.
Yeah. I remember that, yeah.
And so that was the reduction on the earlier variance. And so again, they were always talking about leasable. It's not the way the code is written. The code is written about gross floor, but all the variances were based on leasable. So we'd be asking for the same.
I would just be as detailed as you could with all your figures. I mean, if gross is the number they want to see, well, here's gross, but here's what makes up the gross.
Mhm.
That's right. That's right. I think it's just a matter of figures and sharing them.
Mhm.
I would just hope that you don't have to go to get a variance. That's what I would try to do is look at those square footages, and if it looked like you're fairly close.
Yeah.
The staff has basically said there's 217, and you need 228, so you're short 11. There's 8 right there, so you're only short 3. Maybe some adjustments or something. I just don't want to see you go through that process if you don't have to. I would try to work so that you don't have to do that.
Yep.
And you can get your permits right on time and everything. We don't want to see you miss that deadline.
Right.
Your
That's a
deadline.
fact.
I think Chairman Brunn's point is well taken, or should be well taken, that more information is better. Show them what they want, but then show them, how you interpret it. And I think your point about the parking garages is very logical. Show them what they want with all the gross, including the parking garage, but then show them what it is without the parking garage and say, look, this is not leasable, it's not, shouldn't even be considered gross, this is actually supplementing the parking that's on the site. Show them everything, and then argue your point, whether you want to lose that battle on the building square footage. But it's just all information, and it just needs to be submitted so we can all review it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, staff, I don't think there's an issue of parking on the site. I think it's more of providing a document that is up to date and current to what is reflective of what's there now, based on what our records show and the discrepancies of what the count is and what, past documents that the city has. So that and, providing updated information regarding the gross and your net square footage. But it's more of just a line in the sand. This is where we are in 2018. So that can be agreed upon and move forward, I think is the biggest thing that the city is looking for. Not necessarily trying to even up what was in the past and what's now. It's really just this is the accurate to date where we are in terms of site survey that they can move forward with in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Are we all good on parking? I think everyone has been heard that would like to be heard on the subject. And I think as far as the elevations and the use that you proposed, everyone is pretty agreeable. I think the only question we would have is the use of the window, the drive-through, or whatever it's to become. It has been stated that you even have a question yourself as far as looking long-term. Is that true?
Exactly how they're using it, yes, but as far as it becoming like, to the point which probably if we end up on board, we're actually taking a drive-through out because they're not using it as a drive-through. It's more of like a walk-up window. What they've told me is it's a place for pulling in for online orders, delivery dudes, or I don't know if you have them here, but those types of services, Uber Eats, for them to access those, which in essence really means I'm adding 3 parking spots.
Well,
taking out a drive-through.
That is how we see it being approved tonight. Is that how the commission sees it being approved? As a pull-up window, no menu boards in the future, no anything like that. This is just a pull-up window to get an order. You state your name, they hand you the bag, you hand them a credit card, and you go on your way. Or you walk up to that. That's what we're seeing it. If that changes in any way,
they'll be back in front of you. Yep, they'll be back here to go through that.
Very good. Anything further? Well, I believe we will call a vote. Or may I have a motion, please? I just want to vote on it. It's the last one of the year. I had to mix it up.
I'll make an attempt since I don't hear but silence in here. I would move to approve the storefront modifications, which include the addition of the patio, is that correct? A rear service door, grease trap, and modified dumpster for BurgerFi at 7708 Poplar Avenue in Germantown, Village Shopping Center. Subject to the items that we discussed here and the staff comments and the conditions in the staff report and the documents and plans which have been submitted with the application.
Second? We have a clarification.
Are we not offering an amendment in which states that we subject to the Board of Zoning Appeals, at least the adequate documentation that we discussed, which I guess is implied by your motion, but adequate documentation being submitted that would either, I don't know how to say it, move forward to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a variance or satisfy the requirements of our zoning ordinance.
And that amendment is acceptable to me.
Second?
Very good. Please call roll.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Alderman Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lanweir?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Chairman Bruns?
Yes, you have your approval. We look forward to getting this behind all of us. And thanks for coming in tonight. There is no old business or new business, but I would like to thank two members that we will not be seeing up here next year for certain, and that is Ralph Smith and Steve Landwehr. So thank you for many, many good years.
Hear, hear.
For Germantown.
It's not too late to change your mind either.
That's correct. November 30th, midnight. And for the rest of us, I look forward to hopefully seeing you up here again, serving for another year. So thank you.